What did I tell you? What did I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? I said give an emotional episode to Fitz and Simmons, and we will see what they can really do as actors, and it will be the best one yet. I feel accomplished. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my next review of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this time reviewing number 6, Fzzt, which I guess is just supposed to sound like Fzzt, sort of like an electro thing going off, like a lightning, like Fzzt, like a lightning bolt. Anyways, all of the title stuff aside, this episode had me worried at first because literally for the first 30 minutes I was bored out of my brain. It seemed like a fairly, run-of-the-mill kind of episode. It's like, oh, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are driving around in their extremely, conspicuous marked car, and they're going to find some people that have mysteriously died and stuff like that, and it just seemed like all banal, and it's like 6 episodes in, and I'm like, what is wrong with this show that I'm already getting tired of this, and it's already formulaic? But all that changed as soon as Coulson sat down in that room with that guy. All of that changed with that Clark Gregg emotional speech, really, it was a tense emotional moment. I mean, it might be just me. I have a feeling it's not just me, but it really just, I felt something after that. Not necessarily tears, but it was just a very touching moment for Coulson. Very insightful, and I'll talk about what insights it might have given later. But it was a very touching scene, and it was very evocative. And then from then on, I was like, okay, now where's it gonna go? Because I was actually worried this was a 30-minute episode because it seemed to have wrapped everything up so nicely. And of course, when he leaves and closes the door on Simmons, I figured that he was the one that was infected, not her, because he was the one that was in the room with the guy. But the fact that it was Simmons made it so much better. Now, what had I been saying? I had said, we haven't really seen emotion from Fitz and Simmons. I really hope they give us that, because I think they can handle themselves. And this was, in my opinion, the best episode yet for it. Now let's jump into a quick recap. This episode saw the team going after a string of mysterious, somewhat electric-related deaths of connected firemen who were responders in the Chitauri of invasion of New York as seen in the Avengers. They tracked the trail to a guy who had a Chitauri helmet. It was just a souvenir. He wasn't actually a bad guy, but he was infected and he ended up dying. And like I said, I was worried that was where the episode would end because it wrapped everything up so nicely, but as it turns out, Simmons, while investigating what turned out to be some sort of electric virus on the helmet, unlike anything seen on Earth before, contracted the illness. Now, lots of emotional intensity occurred and just tons of feels everywhere falling from the sky. You could literally, I look at all the fucks that I actually gave about this episode because they are everywhere. But it turns out she and Fitz were able to, craft a serum, and they did so, giving us one of the best episodes yet. But diving right back into it, this episode, if I had to give the first half until that Coulson scene with, the firefighter who was about to die, a grade, I would probably give it a 5 or below. I would say probably a 5. Because the jokes weren't hitting, they were all falling flat. Literally, just about every joke that anybody made was falling flat. And I feel like it was just because they were trying to riff on, oh, Coulson and Ward don't get Sky's jokes. How awkward, haha. But no, it literally, none of them worked. They were falling flat on me. And as someone who's a big supporter of this show, if they were falling flat on me, I feel like they were probably falling flat on a lot of people. And so, but that whole first, muddling bit turned out to lead into something much better. Because if I had to give the last half of the episode a grade, the last 30 minutes, that might pass a 10. That would be, since it's on a scale of 10, I would have to give it a 10. But the emotional intensity that 30 minutes brought me was just about as high as I've ever felt in any of the MCU movies. I mean, Simmons, and if anybody, literally, this cements to me that Simmons and Fitz are my favorite characters, or Fitz and Simmons, I guess, to use the show's terms, but Fitz and Simmons are my favorite characters, and they are by far up there with, Clark Gregg the best actors on this show, because the amount of emotion and sincerity that they packed into their performance, literally, it didn't move me to tears, because, I mean, whatever. I, the fact that I'm struggling with this should tell you just how, intense it was. But it literally evoked a raw and, just all these emotions. Like, I was, scared right with them. I was feeling for them. I was sad when it looked like she was going to die. And it stirred all the emotions that a good acting performance should. And Ming-Na Wen also did a good job. She had an emotional scene with Coulson at the end, where Coulson, and I'll get into Coulson a little bit later, but Ming-Na Wen also, I think she plays her character as good as anyone else on the show, because her character's not supposed to show a lot, but in the little bit that she does show, you get all the emotions that you need from her, and you can see that she's actually a very emotionally diverse person, and that's the difference between Ward and her, in my opinion. Is Ward is a little more like he acts like the character he's playing, sort of pent up and like sort of like tight, but not in a good way. Like, I'm not revealing anything, but this and Ming-Na Wen does it sort of the opposite way. She's supposed to play this secretive character, this not necessarily bureaucrat, but this secretive character working for a secret organization, but she uses that to her advantage. She becomes sort of an almost vulnerable person with that, and that's what makes her character great. Now, Clark Gregg once again stole the show with Agent Coulson. Actually, I can't say he stole the show in this one, because he saw great acting in this one. However, Fzzt and Simmons really stole the show. Fzzt and Simmons blew everyone else out of the water. This was the best acting performance I've seen on TV since Breaking Bad ended. But seriously, Clark Gregg, actually, this was also a good episode for him in terms of character development. We still don't know what's going on with his character, and if he was resurrected, if he's an android or whatnot. But he was definitely dead, and they alluded that there might be something that brought him back. Who knows? I'm really hoping they don't take the easy way out and say, oh, he was dead, but we managed to revive him after 40 seconds. There's got to be something to it. The MCU is just too complex and diverse not to have something involved in that. But a really good character development episode on all sides. Now, on to the very few negatives. Oh, and another positive I would say is that it actually gave us a good callback to the Avengers, not just Coulson, referring to Loki as the Asgardian Mussolini, or commenting on how he got stabbed through the chest by Loki's scepter every 5 seconds. This was a good callback to the Avengers. But going to some cons, Agent Ward, we actually saw some actually real emotion from him, but I still feel like he's the weakest link as an actor, but he did get a little bit better. But the writing, this episode would have been completely fine without Skye in it. She almost felt like an afterthought. It feels like it just had to squeeze her in there, but this episode it would have been fine. It actually would have been great without her. This isn't really, it's not a bad thing, it just feels like it could have been better because they included her, if they had a better role for her in the episode, but there was really not a whole lot she could do except for make jokes that didn't really land. It's not to say, I still feel like she's actually better than, Brett Dalton playing Agent Ward, but it's not by much at this point. At least she has her looks going for her. But, my MVP, or my MVA, I guess, my most valuable actor of this one has to go to Elizabeth Henstridge as Gemma Simmons, blowing everyone out of the water. Fzzt is a very close runner-up because he portrayed Fzzt perfectly, because they're it's sort of like the same thing as Ming-Na when they're acting in their characters the way that they are, and the way that those characters should be. They're acting like the characters would act. They're making us believe that they are the characters simply in their acting performance, and that is what acting is all about. That's what made Bryan Cranston Walter White. That's what made, Idris Elba a convincing Stringer Bell in The Wire. And I'm not going to compare Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to The Wire, but this was an excellent acting performance, and definitely I feel like showed that this show can have that sort of tone going forward. Now, on to final scores for this episode. I cannot in good conscience give this episode a 10, and I know there's going to be a lot of outrage, but to me, the first half an hour was just, it was kind of bad. Until that scene with Coulson and the fireman, as I said before, it was really bad. The jokes weren't working. The story was just, piddling about. But the last 30 minutes are sufficient enough and packed enough emotional drama that the last 30 minutes, I'm not even considering this an hour-long TV show tonight. This was a 30-minute TV show that started at 8:30. This episode started at 8:30. There's no beginning to this episode as far as I'm concerned. However, like I said, I cannot still, in good conscience, give this episode a 10 because of that first half. They could have written it a little bit better, but because the writing and the acting and everything was just so superb on the last half, I'm giving this a 9.75 out of 10. I would love to give it a 10. It's just that first half is preventing it for me. It's killing me inside because I want to give it a 10 so bad, but why? In the end, however, this is my favorite episode so far. Brilliant in all the right ways. Everything worked. Like I said, Fzzt and Simmons, give them an emotional, soapbox, and they will, tell you a beautiful story, and that's exactly what they did. So, guys, moving forward, I'm going to also be doing Korra and Walking Dead reviews starting this week. So Korra on Friday, that review should be up Friday night, actually more like Saturday probably. Walking Dead will be up more than likely Sunday night or Monday morning, to be seen. But signing off, I am White Sheep. Catch you next time.